I stood at the edge of the lake, the water shimmering under the fading light of dusk, a mirror reflecting the chaos within me. It was beautiful, yet it felt like a cruel joke, this picturesque setting in stark contrast to the storm of emotions raging in my heart. I had spent so many nights replaying the moment of betrayal, each recollection slicing through me like a sharpened knife. How could I have been so blind? The questions haunted me, gnawing away at my peace, until I felt like a stranger in my own skin. Every ripple in the water echoed his laughter, a sound that once filled me with joy now twisted into a reminder of his deceit. I could almost hear his voice calling my name, claiming he loved me while hiding the truth behind a veil of lies. It was as if I had been living in a dream, a beautiful illusion that shattered when I discovered his infidelity. The betrayal had been a thief, stealing not just my trust, but pieces of my very soul. I had become a ghost of who I used to be, wandering through a world that no longer felt familiar. I could still remember the day I found out. The sun was shining bright, the kind of day that filled you with hope. But all that hope vanished the moment I saw the text on his phone. It was a simple message, but the words hit me like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless and disoriented. I confronted him, my heart racing, my voice trembling, yet the truth spilled out like poison, infecting every corner of my heart. The denial in his eyes morphed into guilt, and in that moment, I felt my world crumble. In the weeks that followed, pain became my constant companion. I wore it like a second skin, heavy and suffocating. I avoided the places we used to visit, the songs we used to sing together, each reminder a fresh wound. I would sit in my room for hours, staring at the wall, feeling as if I were drowning in an ocean of despair. My friends tried to pull me out of the darkness, but I was too far gone, too entrenched in my grief. I could barely muster a smile, let alone engage in conversation. The betrayal had silenced me, wrapping me in a cocoon of hurt that kept me safe, yet isolated. But as the days turned into weeks and then months, something inside me began to shift. I started to realize that the weight of his betrayal was mine to bear, not because I had to, but because I chose to. I realized that holding on to that pain was like clutching onto a burning ember, thinking it would somehow hurt him back. The truth was, it was only hurting me. I had seen glimpses of my old self in fleeting moments, when I laughed with a friend, when I felt the warmth of the sun on my skin. But each time, the shadow of his betrayal crept back, reminding me of the scars that marred my heart. The journey to forgiveness felt like climbing a mountain. Each step forward met with a slip back into the darkness. But I was tired of being consumed by anger and resentment. I wanted to reclaim my life, to breathe again without the weight of his actions dragging me down. I knew that forgiving him wouldn't erase the past, nor would it excuse his choices. It was about me, my healing, my freedom. I could feel the flicker of hope rising within me, a gentle reminder that I was still here, still breathing, still capable of love, even if it felt distant. So, I made a decision. I wouldn't forgive him for his sake. I would forgive him to free my heart from the chains that had bound it for too long. As I stood by the lake, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, envisioning the pain leaving my body like the last rays of sunlight sinking beneath the horizon. It was time to let go, to step into the light that awaited beyond the shadows. With each exhale, I felt the burden lessen, a small but significant victory in a battle that had raged within me for far too long. As I stood there, the cool breeze brushing against my skin, I felt a flicker of warmth spark within me. It was as if the universe was whispering that it was okay to let go, to release the tight grip I had on my pain. I opened my eyes, the lake now holding a different reflection, a potential for healing rather than just sorrow. I took a step back, away from the water's edge, and turned my face toward the fading light. The sky was painted in hues of orange and purple, a breathtaking reminder that beauty could exist even in the aftermath of heartbreak. With each day that passed, the idea of forgiveness began to take root in my mind. It was not a sudden epiphany, but rather a gradual unfolding, like petals of a flower revealing themselves to the sun. I started to understand that forgiveness wasn't about absolving him of his actions. It was about reclaiming my own narrative. The more I held on to the hurt, the more I allowed him to dictate my feelings, my happiness, and my future. I deserved better than that. I began to seek small moments of joy, the kind that had once felt out of reach. I met friends for coffee, cautiously at first, as if the laughter we shared could crumble at the slightest touch. But with every smile exchanged, every story told, I could feel the icy grip of resentment begin to thaw. I discovered that joy was not a betrayal of my pain. It was a testament to my resilience. Each laugh was a reminder of life's sweetness, a gentle nudge that I could still find happiness beyond the hurt. But there were days when the shadows crept back in, whispering lies that I was unworthy of love and joy. On those days, I would sit with my journal, pouring out my heart in ink. I wrote letters to him, unfiltered and raw, detailing the pain he had caused and the lessons I had learned. In those pages, I confronted the anger and the sadness, but I also found gratitude for the strength that was blossoming within me. Each letter was a release, a cathartic act that brought me closer to the forgiveness I craved. One afternoon, I decided to revisit some of the places that had been too painful to face. I ventured to our favorite park, my heart racing as I approached the familiar bench. Memories flooded my mind, laughter, sunsets, dreams shared. But instead of crumbling under the weight of nostalgia, I took a deep breath and sat down. I allowed myself to feel everything: the joy we once shared, the betrayal that had followed, and the strength I had discovered in the aftermath. I realized that those memories were part of me, but they did not define me. I was transforming, shedding the layers of hurt like a snake shedding its skin. In that moment, I made a silent promise to myself. I would not let his betrayal be the end of my story. It would be a chapter, yes, but not the conclusion. I was writing my own narrative now, one filled with hope, healing, and ultimately, forgiveness. I could feel the tide of change rising within me, washing away the remnants of his deceit. So, I whispered my forgiveness into the wind, a soft yet powerful declaration that I was ready to move forward. I understood that forgiveness was an act of love, not for him, but for myself. I was breaking the chains, reclaiming my heart, and stepping into a future that was mine to shape. If you've ever found yourself in a similar space of heartache and healing, I invite you to join me on this journey. Let's share our stories, our struggles, and our triumphs. Subscribe to my channel, and let's connect in the comments. Your voice matters, and together, we can find the strength to forgive and to heal. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the park, and I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I had finally taken that leap into the unknown, allowing the warmth of forgiveness to seep into the cracks of my heart. I could almost hear the world around me rejoicing in my decision, the rustling leaves echoing a symphony of liberation. In the days that followed, I embraced a new routine, one that didn't revolve around the memories of him. I discovered the local farmer's market, with its vibrant colors and the sweet scent of fresh produce. Each visit became a ritual of self-care, a way to nourish my body and soul. I would wander from stall to stall, sampling ripe strawberries and fragrant herbs, allowing myself to feel joy in the simplest of pleasures. I didn't need to hide or pretend. I was learning to embrace my own company. Yet, the journey wasn't linear. Some nights, I found myself staring at the ceiling, haunted by the echoes of our past. I remembered the warmth of his laughter, the way he made me feel seen, even as the bitterness of betrayal clawed at my insides. On those nights, I would wrap myself in a blanket, clutching my journal as if it were a lifeline. Writing became my refuge, a place where I could untangle the thoughts that swirled in my mind. "Why did you have to hurt me?" I wrote one evening, the ink flowing as tears blurred my vision. "Did you ever love me at all?" But as I poured my heart out, I began to notice a shift. The anger that had once consumed my words transformed into questions of understanding. I wasn't writing to hold on to the past. I was writing to free myself. I started to explore the idea that his actions, while painful, were more a reflection of his struggles than my worth. I began to seek out people who inspired me, those who had faced their own trials and emerged with stories of resilience. I attended workshops and book readings, immersing myself in narratives of healing. With every new encounter, I felt my heart expand, filling the void left by betrayal with hope and connection. I learned that vulnerability was not a weakness, but a powerful tool for growth. Then one day, while sitting at a cafe, I met Sarah, a woman whose laughter was contagious. We struck up a conversation, and as she shared her own story of heartbreak, I felt an undeniable bond form between us. I opened up about my journey, the struggles I faced, and the slow path toward forgiveness. To my surprise, she listened intently, nodding with understanding. In that moment, I realized that sharing my story was not just about seeking validation, it was about building a community of support, a tapestry woven from the threads of our experiences. As we began to meet regularly, I discovered the beauty of friendship, the kind that flourishes in authenticity. We exchanged stories of our pasts, but we also made plans for the future. We hiked up trails that overlooked the city, laughing at our shared clumsiness and reveling in the beauty of the world around us. Each adventure felt like a celebration of life, a reminder that there was so much more waiting for me beyond the pain. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the landscape, I stood at the edge of a cliff with Sarah. I felt a surge of gratitude for the journey I had undertaken. "You know," I said, "forgiveness isn't just about letting go of the past. It's about opening up to the possibilities of the future." She smiled, and I could see the understanding in her eyes. It was in that moment, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the warmth of friendship, that I truly felt free. I began to realize that forgiveness had become a part of my identity, not just a goal to achieve. It was a process, a continuous journey of growth and self-discovery. I was no longer a victim of betrayal. I was a warrior of my own story, crafting each chapter with resilience and grace. The shadows still lingered at times, but they no longer held power over me. Grateful for every step, I embraced the light that was beginning to illuminate my path. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself transforming in ways I never anticipated. The sunlight felt warmer, the laughter I shared with Sarah echoed deeper within me, and the weight of my past seemed to lighten. One afternoon, as we sat in our favorite cafe sipping chamomile tea, I noticed a subtle change in my perception. The world around me, once shrouded in the fog of betrayal, now sparkled with potential. "Do you think we're defined by our past?" Sarah asked, her eyes reflecting the golden hue of the sun streaming through the window. I paused, considering the question. The truth was, I had spent so long letting my past dictate my present that it felt almost radical to think otherwise. "I used to believe that, but I'm starting to think that we're defined by how we choose to move forward," I replied, a sense of clarity washing over me as the words left my lips. With each conversation we shared, I felt the remnants of pain begin to fade. We talked not just about heartbreak, but about our dreams, our aspirations, the wild and wonderful things we wanted to achieve. I could see the flickers of ambition in her eyes, and it ignited something within me. I wanted to write again, to pour my soul onto the pages that had long been blank, filled only with sorrow. One evening, back at home, I opened my laptop, heart racing with anticipation. I began to write, no longer as a victim, but as a conqueror of my own narrative. The words flowed freely, unearthing the joy I had buried beneath layers of hurt. I wrote about the beauty of forgiveness, how it had softened the jagged edges of my heart. I wrote about Sarah, the unexpected friendship that had blossomed from shared pain, and how it reminded me of the strength found in vulnerability. But even as I embraced the light, the darkness occasionally crept back in. There were moments when I'd glance at my phone, half expecting a message from him, a reminder of the love that once was. I had to remind myself that love can be complicated, that sometimes it grows in unexpected places. I began to understand that forgiveness was not a destination, but a journey, one that required patience and kindness towards myself. One night, I found myself alone in my living room, the soft glow of candles flickering against the walls. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, allowing the stillness to envelop me. In that moment of solitude, I envisioned his face, and I felt a pang of sadness mixed with acceptance. "I forgive you," I whispered into the silence. Not for him, but for me. It was a release, a letting go of the chains that had bound me to the past. Days turned into months, and the seasons shifted around me, mirroring my internal transformation. I began to explore new passions, painting, hiking, even trying my hand at cooking. Each new experience felt like a brushstroke on the canvas of my life, adding depth and color to a once monochrome existence. I snapped photos of sunrises and sunsets, capturing moments that spoke to the beauty of moving forward. As winter approached, I found myself reflecting on everything I had learned. The warmth of forgiveness had become a sanctuary, a place I could return to whenever the shadows threatened to engulf me. I had built a life rich with experiences and connections, a life that thrived in authenticity. I realized that the betrayal, while painful, had nudged me toward a path of discovery that I would not trade for anything. One crisp morning, as I bundled up in a cozy scarf and stepped out into the world, I felt a sense of purpose swell within me. It was no longer about escaping the pain. It was about embracing the entirety of my journey. The sun shone brightly overhead, and as I walked through the park, I smiled at strangers and greeted the fresh air with gratitude. I was not just surviving, I was living, and that made all the difference. Each step I took through the park felt like a testament to my newfound strength. The laughter of children playing nearby danced in the air, and I could feel the warmth of the sun washing over me like a gentle embrace. It was in moments like these that I truly understood the power of forgiveness, not as a gift to those who wronged me, but as a lifeline for my own soul. I had shed the weight of resentment and regret, allowing joy to seep back into the crevices of my heart. As winter's chill began to weave itself into the fabric of my days, I found myself drawn to the warmth of community. I volunteered at a local shelter, where stories of resilience and hope surrounded me. Listening to others share their struggles reminded me that pain, though isolating, was a universal language. My heart ached for the souls who had lost their way, but it also swelled with gratitude for the lessons I had learned. I could reach out a hand, not just to comfort others, but to remind myself of the journey I had traversed. One evening, while helping serve dinner, I met a woman named Clara. She had a laugh that was contagious, a light that seemed to push back against the shadows of her past. We talked about our lives, and as she recounted her own story of betrayal and loss, I felt a kindred spirit. The pain in her voice struck a chord deep within me. "It's hard to let go, isn't it?" she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I nodded, feeling the familiar sting of empathy. "It is. But when you do, it's like you're finally able to breathe again." As we shared our thoughts, I realized that forgiveness was a thread that connected us all, weaving a fabric of shared experience and understanding. I expressed my own journey, how the act of forgiveness had unraveled the knots in my heart and allowed me to flourish. In that moment, I felt a sense of purpose surge through me. I wanted to help others find their paths to healing, to whisper to them that they were not alone. The months rolled on, and the world around me continued to transform. With each passing day, I felt more alive, more in tune with who I was meant to be. I filled my journal with reflections, doodles, and snippets of inspiration. I wrote letters to my past self, forgiving her for the mistakes she had made and thanking her for the strength she had shown. Each letter was like a gentle hug, a reminder that growth is often born from pain. Then came a day that felt like a surreal moment of closure. I found myself standing at the edge of a serene lake, the water reflecting the clear blue sky above. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and whispered a prayer of gratitude for everything I had endured. I felt the cool breeze brush against my skin, as if nature herself was encouraging me to release the last remnants of hurt. "I forgive you," I said, not just to him, but to the echoes of my past. It was liberating, a final act of love for the girl who had once felt so lost. As I opened my eyes, I felt lighter, almost buoyant. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water. I knew I was stepping into a new chapter, one filled with possibilities I had yet to explore. Each day was a blank page waiting for my story to unfold. And so, I invite you to share your own stories with me. Have you found forgiveness in your journey? How did it shape you? Let's connect in the comments below, and together, let's explore new themes of resilience, healing, and the beauty that comes from embracing our pasts. Your story matters, and I can't wait to hear it. The days that followed my moment at the lake were filled with a profound sense of clarity, as if a veil had been lifted from my eyes. I moved through life with a lightness that surprised me, each interaction infused with a newfound appreciation for the beauty of the present. I realized that forgiveness was not just a single act, but a continuous journey, an evolving process that I would carry with me as I navigated the world. At the shelter, Clara and I became inseparable friends, bound by our shared experiences and the understanding that only those who have faced betrayal can truly grasp. We laughed together, tears streaming down our faces as we recounted our stories, the kind of laughter that echoed in the walls of the shelter and warmed the hearts of those around us. It was in these moments that I discovered the healing power of community, of being surrounded by those who understood that we were all works in progress, sculpted by our pasts, yet striving for something brighter. One evening, as we cleaned up after dinner, Clara paused and looked at me with a seriousness that caught me off guard. "You know," she said, "forgiveness is one thing, but moving on is another. How do we truly move forward?" Her question hung in the air, heavy yet hopeful. I pondered her words, feeling the weight of my own journey. I think moving on means embracing every part of ourselves, the hurt, the joy, the lessons. It's about creating a life that honors our past without being shackled by it, I replied, my voice steady, but filled with emotion. As winter deepened, I found solace in the written word, pouring my heart into my journal more fervently than ever. Each entry became a testament to my evolution, a chronicle of my struggles, triumphs, and the delicate dance of forgiveness. I wrote about the nights I spent restless, haunted by memories, and the days I stood tall, proud of the scars that told my story. I began to see every tear as a drop of courage, every moment of doubt as a stepping stone toward self-discovery. One chilly afternoon, as I was finishing a particularly poignant entry, my phone chimed with a message that sent a jolt through my heart. It was from him, a simple, "How are you?" that felt like a ghost from my past reaching out. I stared at the screen, my heart racing, the memories flooding back like a tidal wave. I had thought I was well beyond this, that I had truly let go. But in that moment, I realized that forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It simply allows us to acknowledge it without bitterness. I took a deep breath and decided to respond. "I'm doing well. Thank you. I hope you're finding peace too." It was a small message, a flicker of light in the shadows that had once consumed me. I hit send, feeling an unexpected weight lift from my chest. I didn't need closure from him. I had already found it within myself. The days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, I felt a deeper connection to my purpose. I began to facilitate workshops at the shelter, inviting others to share their stories of pain and healing. Each session was a cathartic release, a space where vulnerability was met with compassion. I watched as others unfolded their narratives, revealing the wounds they had carried for far too long. In those moments, I was reminded of the strength that lies in our shared humanity, in the understanding that we are never truly alone in our struggles. As spring approached, the world outside began to bloom, mirroring the changes I felt within. I found myself standing in front of a mirror one morning, taking in the reflection of a woman who had weathered storms and emerged stronger. The shadows of betrayal no longer defined me. Instead, they had become threads in the rich tapestry of my life. I smiled at the woman in the mirror, embracing her flaws, her fears, and her victories. "You are enough," I whispered, a mantra that I hoped would echo in my heart for years to come. The journey of forgiveness was not just about freeing my heart from pain. It was about embracing the fullness of my existence, allowing joy to intertwine with sorrow like a beautiful melody. And as the sun began to rise on this new chapter, I knew that the best was yet to come. I awoke one morning to the sound of birdsong, a symphony of life that seemed to celebrate the arrival of spring. The world outside my window was vibrant with colors, and I felt an electric thrill coursing through me. Today was the day I would lead my first workshop at the shelter after months of planning. It wasn't just about sharing my story. It was about creating a space where others could feel safe enough to share theirs. I dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that made me feel confident yet comfortable, a reflection of the newfound sense of self I had cultivated. As I arrived at the shelter, the familiar scent of coffee and pastries greeted me, wrapping around me like a warm hug. I could see Clara in the kitchen, her laughter ringing out as she chatted with a few of the other women. I joined her, and we exchanged a knowing glance, a silent acknowledgement of the journey we had both undertaken. "Are you ready?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. I nodded, though my heart raced with anticipation and a hint of nervousness. The room filled slowly with women, each carrying their own stories, their own burdens. As I looked around, I saw faces that mirrored the struggle and strength I had experienced. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that this was not just about me, it was about all of us. I introduced myself, my voice trembling slightly but steadying as I spoke of forgiveness, of the journey we all shared in healing. "Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves," I said, my words laced with passion. "It's not about condoning what happened, but freeing ourselves from the chains it has imposed on our hearts." I encouraged everyone to share their stories, and one by one, they began to open up. I listened intently as each woman revealed her pain, her betrayal, the wounds that had shaped her life. There was a cathartic release in the air, an unspoken bond forming among us as we bared our souls. Tears mingled with laughter, and in that room, we created a sanctuary of understanding. I felt a sense of purpose wash over me, knowing that this was where I belonged. As the workshop unfolded, I shared my own journey of forgiveness, the moments of doubt, and the clarity that followed. I spoke of the weight of betrayal and how I had learned to let it go, not for him, but for me. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, I emphasized. It means choosing to move forward, to allow ourselves the joy of living without the shadows of our past dictating our future. The conversations were raw and powerful, and I could see transformation beginning to take root. I encouraged the women to write letters to those who had hurt them, not to send, but to express their feelings. As they wrote, I saw their burdens lighten, the tension in their shoulders easing as they poured their hearts onto paper. It was a beautiful sight, witnessing the healing process in action. After the workshop, Clara and I lingered, tidying up the space that had felt so alive just moments before. "You were incredible today," she said, her eyes filled with admiration. I felt a flush of warmth at her words, a mixture of pride and gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," I replied, realizing just how much her support had meant to me. As we walked out into the fresh air, I took a moment to appreciate the world around me. The trees were in full bloom, their blossoms dancing in the gentle breeze, a reminder of the beauty that comes after the darkest of winters. I realized that I was no longer defined by my past. Rather, I was a mosaic of experiences, each piece contributing to the woman I was becoming. In that moment of clarity, I knew that I had not only forgiven him, but had also embraced every lesson he had inadvertently taught me. I had discovered my strength, my voice, and my capacity to love, not just others, but myself. And as the sun set on that beautiful day, I understood that this journey was far from over. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter filled with hope and endless possibilities. The next few weeks at the shelter flew by in a whirl of laughter, shared stories, and the vibrant energy of healing. Each workshop I led became a tapestry woven with the threads of our lives, each thread unique yet intertwined with the others. I found myself eagerly looking forward to these sessions, not just for what I could give, but for what I received in return. The warmth that filled the room was infectious. It wrapped around us like a cozy blanket, shielding us from the world outside. One evening, as I prepared for another workshop, Clara approached me with a thoughtful expression. "You've created something amazing here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You've turned your pain into power, and it's inspiring." I felt a swell of pride, realizing that my journey had transformed not only my life, but also the lives of others. It was a realization that sent shivers down my spine, illuminating the path I had chosen. As I stood before the women once again, I felt a familiar rush of emotion. I recounted the story of my betrayal, the heartache that had once consumed me. It was still raw in my memory, but I spoke of it not with bitterness, but with a sense of liberation. Every wound carries a lesson, I told them, my heart racing as I watched their faces. Each scar is a badge of survival. The room was charged with energy, and I encouraged them to share their own stories. This time, however, I felt a shift. The vulnerability was palpable, but so was the strength that emerged as they spoke. One woman, Maria, took a deep breath before she began. Her voice shook at first, but as she continued, her words became more confident. "I thought I'd never be able to forgive," she confessed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But maybe it's time to stop letting him control my life." The others nodded, their expressions reflecting her struggle. I could feel the power of her realization ripple through the room, igniting sparks of hope. It was moments like these that reminded me why I had embarked on this journey in the first place. We were not just a group of women sharing our pain. We were a collective force of resilience, ready to reclaim our lives. As the workshop came to a close, I encouraged them to write down what they wanted to release and what they wished to embrace moving forward. The energy shifted once more, and I could sense a new chapter unfolding for each of them. When they shared their intentions aloud, a wave of courage washed over the room, and I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. Each declaration was a step toward liberation, a promise they made to themselves. Afterward, Clara and I sat in the now quiet room, surrounded by the remnants of our shared experience. "You've created a ripple effect," she said, her voice full of admiration. "These women are going to carry this forward." I smiled, but deep inside, I felt a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. I was just one voice among many, yet somehow I had sparked a fire. Days turned into weeks, and soon I found myself reflecting on the journey I had traveled. I had once been trapped in a cycle of anger and sorrow, shackled by the weight of betrayal. But now, I was free. I had released the pain, not for him, but for myself. I had reclaimed my life, and in doing so, I discovered the beauty of forgiveness, the ability to let go without losing the lessons learned. One evening, I found myself standing in front of my mirror, taking in the woman staring back at me. There was a strength in my posture, a light in my eyes that hadn't been there before. I was a work in progress, a masterpiece still being sculpted, but I was proud of the woman I was becoming. I had transformed my betrayal into a stepping stone, and with each passing day, I felt more alive, more connected to my purpose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow across the room, I whispered a silent promise to myself. I would continue this journey, not just for me, but for every woman who needed to hear that forgiveness was possible, that healing was not only a dream, but a reality waiting to be embraced. I stood there, the sun's last rays illuminating the room, and felt a deep sense of purpose swell within me. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring me to this moment, to remind me of the strength that lay within. I had spent so long clinging to the remnants of a past that no longer served me, and now I was ready to embrace the future with open arms. The following week, I decided to host a special session at the shelter, one that would focus on forgiveness, not just as a concept, but as a tangible practice. I wanted to guide the women through the process of letting go, helping them to understand that forgiveness was a gift they could give themselves. I crafted a plan, incorporating art and journaling, allowing them to express their feelings in a way that felt safe and empowering. As the day approached, I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. What if they weren't ready? What if I couldn't guide them in the way they needed? But then I remembered my own journey and the pivotal moments that had led me to this point. I had learned that vulnerability is strength, and I had a responsibility to share this knowledge. The day of the workshop arrived, and I greeted each woman with warmth and an open heart. We settled into our circle, and I felt the energy shift as we began. I shared my story again, this time with a deeper understanding of how far I had come. I spoke of the power of forgiveness, not as a means to condone betrayal, but as a pathway to reclaim one's own joy. Forgiveness, I said softly, is an act of love. It's not about the other person. It's about you and your heart. I watched as their eyes widened, some nodding in understanding. The tension in the room began to melt away, replaced by a palpable sense of hope. I led them through a series of exercises, encouraging them to write letters to their past selves, to the people who had hurt them, and even to their future selves. "What do you want to say?" I prompted, watching as pens moved furiously across the pages. The air was thick with emotion, and I could see the release happening before my eyes. Each word they penned was a step toward liberation, a shedding of burdens they had carried for far too long. As we transitioned into the art portion, I watched them transform pain into beauty. Colors splashed onto canvases, emotions took form in strokes and shapes, and laughter mingled with tears. I felt my heart swell with pride and gratitude. This was healing in action. Each woman was reclaiming her narrative, rewriting her story one brushstroke at a time. When the session came to a close, a sense of accomplishment washed over me. We gathered once more in our circle, and I invited them to share what they had created. One by one, they spoke, some with quivering voices, others with newfound strength, each story a testament to the power of forgiveness. They were no longer just victims of their circumstances. They were warriors, rising from the ashes of their pasts. As the last woman shared, I felt a tear escape down my cheek. This was not just my journey. It was ours. We were a tapestry of resilience, each thread vibrant and essential. I realized that in helping them forgive, I had forged my own path to deeper healing. That evening, as I drove home, the moon hung high in the sky, a radiant beacon of light. I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Forgiveness had not only freed my heart, but had created a bridge connecting me to the women I had come to love. I understood now that forgiveness was a continuous journey, one that I would walk alongside them. Each step forward was a celebration of our strength, a reminder that healing was not only possible, but inevitable when we dared to embrace it. I parked my car, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath, letting the joy of the day wash over me. I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that I had chosen to forgive, not for him, but for myself. I was free. As I stepped into my home, the familiar scent of sandalwood and lavender enveloped me, grounding me in the present moment. I felt a sense of tranquility, a stark contrast to the emotional whirlwind of the workshop. The walls echoed with laughter and shared stories, and I could still hear the voices of the women, each one a testament to resilience. I moved through the space, letting the warmth of the day settle into my bones. I made my way to the small desk in the corner of my living room, a haven where I often found solace in writing. The blank page before me beckoned, and I picked up my pen, feeling the weight of my thoughts pressing against my heart like a slow, rhythmic drum. I began to write, capturing the essence of what I had witnessed that day. I poured out the emotions, the triumphs, and the lingering fears that still danced in the corners of my mind. "Forgiveness is a gift," I mused, the words flowing freely as tears threatened to spill. I wrote about the women, their stories woven into the fabric of my own healing journey. I reflected on the power of vulnerability, how it had transformed not only my life, but the lives of those who had gathered in our circle. Each word was cathartic, an act of reclaiming my narrative just as they had. I wrote about the moments when I had felt defeated, the shadows that still lingered from the betrayal that had once consumed me. But now, those shadows felt different, more like echoes than chains. I had turned my pain into purpose, and with each stroke of the pen, I felt the weight of my past lifting. I was no longer defined by the hurt. Instead, I was a vessel of hope, carrying the stories of those who had shared their hearts with me. As the ink dried, I closed my eyes, allowing the memories of the workshop to wash over me once more. I could see their faces, the tears mingling with laughter, the transformations unfolding before my eyes. I held on to that feeling, that electric connection we had forged. It was a reminder that we were not alone, that our journeys, though often solitary, could intersect in the most beautiful ways. After a while, I set my journal aside and brewed a cup of chamomile tea, seeking comfort in the warmth of the mug cradled between my hands. I gazed out the window, watching the stars twinkle against the deepening sky, each one a tiny beacon of light in the vast universe. I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the journey I had taken, for the pain that had shaped me, and for the women who had reminded me of my strength. In the quiet of the night, I reflected on my relationship with him, the man who had betrayed my trust and shattered my heart. Forgiveness had come not as an act of kindness towards him, but as an act of love for myself. I had spent years clinging to resentment, allowing it to fester and grow until it threatened to consume me. But now, I could see clearly. I could release the anger, the disappointment, and the hurt, not because he deserved it, but because I deserved peace. As I sipped my tea, I felt a sense of closure settle within me. The journey of forgiveness was not a linear path. It was a winding road filled with twists and turns, but I was committed to walking it, hand in hand with those women who had become my allies in this journey. Together, we would navigate the complexities of healing, lifting each other up when the weight felt too heavy. And in that moment, I knew I was ready for whatever lay ahead. The future was no longer a source of fear. It was a canvas waiting to be painted with new experiences, new connections, and endless possibilities. With my heart unburdened, I took a deep breath, feeling the lightness in my chest. I was free, and for the first time in years, I could embrace the beautiful unknown that awaited me.